The Constitution doesn't mention political parties, because back when it was written, they didn't exist. This democracy thing was pretty new, guys. Although, believe me, the founders did have their disagreements, they were afraid of the country falling into factions. Plus, they loved George Washington. Like he won every electoral vote. Even though the founders didn't set a limit, George Washington decides to retire after 2 terms. But by this time, the country had split into 2 camps. On one side, John Adams and Alexander Hamilton, who called for a strong government with a big bank and close ties to England. They formed the Federalists. On the other side, James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, who were really just against everything Alexander Hamilton, for small government and siding with revolutionary France. They formed the Democratic Republicans. By 1815, after the War of 1812, when the British returned and burned down the White House, people wanted unity, and the 2-party system dissolves in the era of good feelings. But things quickly fall apart with the bitter feud between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson during the elections of 1824 and 1828. The pro-Jackson side rebrands the small government-loving Democratic Republicans into the Democrats, and the Whigs rise up as a party against Jackson, believing him a tyrant and a jerk, which you would agree with if you were a Native American or one of the guys he beat senseless with his cane. The Whig Party campaigned William Henry Harrison against Jackson's VP, Van Buren, or that guy with the crazy hair. Although they lose in 1836, the Whigs decide to run Harrison again, but step it up. They throw parades featuring hard cider, a log cabin Harrison didn't actually grow up in, and a giant rolling ball, which literally coined the phrase, keep the ball rolling. Harrison would be elected in 1840, but died in 1841, only 32 days into office, after going outside without a coat on. Bundle up, kids. The Whigs would successfully elect another president in 1849, Zachary Taylor, but he would die only 16 months into his presidency after drinking some bad milk. So unsurprisingly, the Whigs fall apart. But in 1852, ex-Whigs form up with northern anti-slavery activists to form the Republicans. Being from the North, they believed in liberty for everyone, from slaves to big business. The Republicans firmly rise with the election of their Abraham Lincoln in 1860, after the Democrats fall into disarray and split into North-South over the issue of slavery. The big guy's election starts a little thing called the Civil War. During Reconstruction, Democrats firmly grab the South and Republicans the North. These post-Civil War Democrats were pretty abusive of elections, which leads to laws like registering to vote and making sure that dead people don't vote, which was a big problem. Unsurprisingly, the Democrats were pretty unpopular and didn't win a single election between 1896 and 1932, aside from Woodrow Wilson, who only made it in because the Republican vote was split between then-President Taft and former President Teddy Roosevelt, who had formed the Bull Moose Party. However, the Great Depression would prove that the Republican ideal of letting big business do whatever it wanted and traditional views like prohibition really didn't work for the country anymore. Democratic President FDR believed that the government could help people and regulate big business. The great success of his New Deal would shift the lower class, African Americans, immigrants, and Catholics to the Democratic Party. By the 1960s, the Democratic President Lyndon Johnson siding with the Black Civil Rights Movement, and Republican Richard Nixon being more regressive towards race. The Democrats lose all the Southern Dixiecrats that were left over from the good old days, and the Republicans firmly grab the South and the flyover states. Meanwhile, the Democrats firmly grab the coasts. Modern Democrats believe in growing what the government does for people, even if that hurts business, focusing on domestic issues and progressing the Constitution. Modern Republicans believe in staying out of the way of the people, and apparently businesses are people, a strong national defense, and upholding the classic old-school on-vinyl Constitution, even if that impedes social progress. This has largely been where the two have sat ever since. But if this story has taught us anything, it's that that's probably gonna change. Because that's what America does. Want to hear more about the worst election in history? Well, until the next one, try this. Or, if you want to find out why the Founding Fathers loved George so much, I can't lie. This one is alright. Also, don't forget to subscribe.